It's always about the money. Everything is. And one of the biggest storylines to watch this offseason was the guys that were due for big-time contracts, especially quarterbacks. Obviously, there was Jordan Love, who was going to be playing on that one-year deal that he essentially signed just to avoid the franchise tag. But that's no longer the case. And now, Dak Prescott sits alone in his wait for an extension that should theoretically be coming in the near future. The Packers dropped the bag on Love, giving him a 4-year, $220 million deal. But he wasn't the first big-time name to get his extension. Maybe the biggest domino and drama that was up in the air for an extension was Tua Tagovailoa. He's about to play on his 5th-year deal this season, and the Dolphins had a really big question to ask themselves. Was he worth the money? Luckily for Tua, Miami decided yes, and he got a 4-year, $212 million extension. The reality is, he was going to get a big contract no matter what. If it wasn't with the Dolphins, somebody else surely would have come calling. But it was ultimately Miami that decided to commit to him. And whether you're a Tua believer or not, it wasn't an easy decision to make. You already know I'm so excited to see the Patriots play next season, especially just to go see Drake May play for the first time during his rookie season. And the perfect place to find tickets is with today's video sponsor, SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app and has had over 28 million downloads. There's more than 70,000 events on SeatGeek, whether it's concerts, sports, festivals, or more. For me, I really want to go see the Patriots-Bengals game over in Cincinnati in Week 1. I've been to Cincinnati and to the Bengals Stadium, but I still haven't caught a game there yet, and this is the perfect opportunity. I've mainly used SeatGeek in the past and even got to go see Tom Brady play a few times before he hung up the cleats by getting my tickets on SeatGeek. It's a really easy to use app and super basic to use. Right now is the perfect time because baseball season is in full swing, and you already know I'm going to want to make it up to go see a game of my Red Sox before the season's over. The NFL schedule is now out too, and you're going to want to get those tickets as soon as possible. SeatGeek has tickets to every game and some big concerts like Hozier and Zach Bryan, who are touring right now. SeatGeek puts all the tickets across the web in one place and makes sure that you're getting a good deal. Each ticket is even rated 1 through 10. Green dot means good and red dot means bad, so it's super easy to evaluate the value. Every ticket is also backed by their buyer guarantee. SeatGeek is the only site that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event with swaps. And of course, we got you guys. You can use our code JD for $20 off your first ticketing purchase through SeatGeek. That's $20 off your first purchase with code JD. Make sure to click the link down in the description to download the app and get your tickets today. Thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring today's video. Let's get right back to it. The argument for a Tua extension isn't a very simple one. First and foremost, the most important factor was always going to be how much. If he wanted some crazy discount, then cool, it would have been done a while ago. But that's not how it works. He rightfully wanted a huge payday, and the Dolphins had to decide if he was worth it or not. Personally, I think for the most part, Tua's been a very good NFL quarterback, but there's a big difference between very good and elite, and that might just be where he ends up. Tua was good last season and was a big help to the Dolphins' 11-6 season. He made the Pro Bowl for the first time and was actually very successful. He threw for 4,600 yards, more than 1,000 more than he's ever had as a pro. It also certainly helped a ton that he played in all 17 games. Tua definitely has some injury history. He's missed his fair share of time in his career, especially last season with those really scary concussions. So he only ended up playing in 14 games in 2021 and in 2022. So it was really good to see him on the field for every game last season. He threw for 29 touchdowns, a good total for sure, but you'd like to see that 14 interception number go down just a bit. It's his first time that he's had more than 10 in a season, but he's also throwing a lot more touchdown passes. But again, he played in 4 more games, so the numbers do kind of make sense. A good question now is if Tua is just Tua at this point, with no real growth or improvement to come. One of the biggest knocks on him is that he truly has had one of the best possible situations around him. The Dolphins have done just a great job building around him. In the past, we've seen a lot of quarterbacks make this insane jump forward in their careers after getting a really good weapon, like Josh Allen did when he got Stephon Diggs, or Jalen Hurts after the Eagles traded for A.J. Brown. You could also add in Joe Burrow after he was reunited with his college teammate Jamar Chase. Well, the Dolphins have done all of that. They drafted Jalen Waddle, who played at Alabama with Tua, and they also traded for Tyreek Hill, who's been without a doubt one of the best wide receivers in the league over the past decade now. Now don't get me wrong, Tua has gotten a lot better with those great weapons beside him, but he's still pretty far off the boat from the best quarterbacks in the league despite a great situation. There was also definitely an expectation that bringing in Mike McDaniel to be the next head coach would help him even more. He's basically been pegged as this insane offensive genius, and he proved that as the offensive coordinator for the 49ers for a year. But he's essentially just another smart young guy from that Kyle Shanahan group. So in theory, you'd think that Tua has the right minds and players around him. And with that, the Dolphins have been good, but not good enough. They haven't been able to win the division or even get over the hump of the Bills yet. Even if Tua was playing out of his mind, every team really needs to see some kind of postseason success to make a big contract worth it. And Tua's lack of postseason success made the decision of whether or not to strike a long-term deal with him a bit difficult, because as of right now, it's really hard to say if there will ever be a successful postseason with him behind center. I do think it's an interesting tell as to how the Dolphins actually feel about Tua when you compare his recent contract situation to the other guys that were taken during the first 2 rounds of the 2020 draft. It was hyped up to be a really good, flashy quarterback class, and it's mostly been right. There were 5 different quarterbacks in the first 2 rounds. 4 were in the first round. The one that wasn't is Jalen Hurts, who has already gotten his own big deal at $255 million. Of course, he didn't have a 5th-year option though, so the Eagles were kind of forced to get it done a bit faster. But nonetheless, he's now making a ton of money, as he should. Tua was a part of that 3-headed race at the top with some really big names. The other quarterback taken in the first round that wasn't considered in that top 3 of the class was Jordan Love, who initially got that 1-year deal, but is now on a new shiny 4-year, $220 million extension. And honestly, it would have made sense if the Packers still wanted to see more out of him. But unfortunately for Tua, Love really doesn't help his case. Yes, he did get to sit and wait behind Aaron Rodgers, a future Hall of Famer. But in year 1 starting, Love threw more touchdowns and less interceptions while also playing in every game, and he actually went on to win a game in the playoffs. Granted, I'll admit there is a big difference between the Chiefs and the Cowboys. The Packers did have a worse record at 9-8 and just snuck into the playoffs, but go look at the differences in weapons. It's 2 different Shanahan guys in Mike McDaniel and Matt LaFleur, but the Dolphins have 2 of the best wide receivers in the league, while the Packers had a bunch of young guys learning the NFL ropes. But it didn't matter. The Packers still found ways to win despite the talent discrepancies, and probably because of that, Love got the extension. Tua was a part of that 3-headed race at the top with some really big names that were all considered top quarterback prospects. Obviously, there was Tua, then Joe Burrow, and Justin Herbert. Burrow has already quickly had some elite level seasons and even played in a Super Bowl, but injuries have bugged him too. He tore a ligament in his wrist last season and tore his ACL as a rookie. But at his peak and when he's at his best, he's an elite quarterback. He got a massive 5-year, $275 million extension last year that actually surpassed Justin Herbert's record-breaking contract extension at 5 years for $262.5 million. Burrow, Herbert, and Hurts' teams clearly believe in them as the future of their franchise, and the Dolphins have decided that Tua fits in that same category, as did the Packers with Jordan Love. Tua has been a good quarterback, but even just looking at Justin Herbert, he threw more touchdowns as a rookie than Tua has in a single season. Tua is a really, really good NFL quarterback that can certainly win if everything is right around him, but he hasn't proven that he's in that same category as the top dogs just yet. But at the same time, the market is what the market is. Daniel Jones is a really good example of that. He was drafted a year before Tua and was a high pick too. But unlike Tua, he's never had a 4,000-yard season, hasn't even won double-digit games in a season, and he's also dealt with missing some time. But still, he landed a 4-year, $160 million extension last offseason. I think Tua is worth more than that, and obviously the Dolphins agreed with that extension, but I feel like that's a good amount for Jones, and the Giants are probably regretting that deal now. The Tua contract situation was, and still is, a bit complex. A lot of the times they aren't simple, but especially when you have a player like Tua, who's had a lot of problems with injuries and has been put in one of the best situations for a quarterback maybe since Patrick Mahomes. And when you look at quarterbacks like Mahomes and even Tom Brady, who got extremely lucky and were put in incredible situations situations, they went on to win a lot. Now, Tua certainly didn't have an easy start to his career. He didn't get to sit behind very good quarterbacks, and instead, he was helped at least some by Ryan Fitzpatrick as a longtime vet, but ever since, Miami has done everything to surround him with help to really get the most out of their quarterback. I think Tua is a guy the Dolphins know they needed to keep around, kind of the same way the Vikings needed to hold on to Kirk Cousins for so long. Good quarterbacks don't just grow on trees, and Tua maybe still can grow, even if it is a little. He's definitely improved a lot playing for McDaniel compared to Brian Flores, and in a way, it kind of mirrors the way Jared Goff looked like a completely different guy when he started playing for Sean McVay compared to when he looked terrible under Jeff Fisher before. At the end of the day, this is year 26 season for Tua, and Miami probably has the hope that he can show a bit more. The Dolphins had a tough decision to make and chose their future. It's a risk to give Tua that big deal, the way it's always risky with the quarterback. But clearly, Miami has enough faith in Tua to give him over $200 million and trust him as the long-term franchise quarterback past his rookie deal.